my biggest thing is making sure you're not paying more than you need to for what you need in your life. So if you've got your mobile phone bill or your internet bill or your electricity bill, you shouldn't be paying more for that than you need to, because you can free up that money and spend it on things you want to spend. So that's really what it's all about.
Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Exponential Show. Today, it is a pleasure of mine to introduce Sarah Megginson, who's a personal finance expert and a media spokesperson at Finder, and also an author whose most recent work is about to launch soon, and we'll talk about it in our conversation. So Sarah, let me start by thanking you for taking the time to speak with us.
Oh, such a pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
The pleasure is all mine, Sarah. So we're here at the third and final day of Money 2020 here in Bangkok. And it's my first Money 2020, and it's been a fantastic experience meeting fantastic people like yourself. So just wanted to shout out Money 2020 and the team at Midas PR who are helping the show behind the scenes. Now, Sarah, let's start with a question that we ask all our guests, which is, what is your superhero origin story? So what got you into working in a world where you're kind of working on the intersection of finance and communication?
Yes,
So
I absolutely love
milestones?
that. I love the idea of calling it an origin story. Well, I've been a finance journalist for almost 20 years. And I actually started out, I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I started out willing to work for anyone that would pay me to write. I wanted to do it. And my very first job, I was working in women's magazines. So I was working for Marie Claire magazine and writing about, women's issues, and it was fun, but it didn't really scratch enough of an itch for me. And at the same time, I had bought my first property and I was getting really interested in finance. I was 21 and I was getting interested in this idea of investing and finance, and I actually got a job as a senior journalist on a property investing magazine, and that kind of kicked things off for me in terms of the rest of that determined the rest of my career. I ended up becoming a finance journalist, and then I edited some magazines and investment magazines, and then about 6 years ago I started working for Finder, which is a global financial comparison site. So we help you get all your finances sorted, and we do a lot of work around trends and insights to try and kind of help people navigate, the chaos of what the last few years have been. We've been very busy, the cost of living crisis, which has taken shape in different ways in different countries, but we've all been feeling it in different ways, and just trying to help people really make the best decisions they can with their money, and make sure that it's working for them, and that, my biggest thing is making sure you're not paying more than you need to for what you need in your life. So if you've got your mobile phone bill or your internet bill or your electricity bill, you shouldn't be paying more for that than you need to, because you can free up that money and spend it on things you want to spend. So that's really what it's all about. I've been also a media spokesperson for the last probably 5 years, and I really love that role because it means I get to talk about finance and all of these complex topics, everything from crypto and blockchain to property and personal finance, everything in between. And I really enjoy that because a lot of the time these conversations are kind of led with more of a male point of view, which I absolutely embrace and love. But sometimes when we have a female face on it, it's a bit more inclusive and invites more conversations for women to get involved. In Australia, 70% or 75% of the media spokespeople and the conversations that happen around finance, like on TV and in the media, are men, and only 25% are women. So I really enjoy that I get to be part of that small but mighty group that helps open up this conversation to more people.
Absolutely, and you're right. I mean, especially when it comes to household expenses, I feel, especially in the Asian context, women have a fairly large say. So I think just financial awareness, making the right decisions, not just to steal your words, not having to pay more for basic things. I think those are helpful conversations to have, and even more helpful when it's coming from somebody like you or your peers who are sort of speaking from the context of being a woman and sort of building a career and your finances around it.
Absolutely, I agree.
So I'm glad to hear about that background, and we were talking off camera that the problem you guys are solving at Finder is something that we in our part of the world would also benefit from. So I'm sort of advocating for that to happen. Perfect. So now you mentioned that over the years you've seen, especially recently, a lot of changes and evolutions, if I may put it mildly, in the macro financial landscape, but also from the technology standpoint.
Yeah.
So if you could maybe sort of zoom out a little bit and talk about some of the more recent trends you're seeing, both from stuff that we can control and stuff that we cannot.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So that's going to take the whole rest of the podcast.
No rush.
I'll try to summarize. But yeah, I mean, like you mentioned before, we're at Money 2020. And the last couple of days, my mind is spinning from everything that I've heard and learnt and read and, been involved in here. There's so many incredible people and businesses who are just, blowing my mind with all of the innovations that are happening. And it's wild. I was yesterday we were in a panel where someone was from Germany and said up until last year in Germany, to do verification of identity, you had to be face-to-face with a person to verify you. Now, in Australia, that changed back in COVID, so in 2020, and we have digital VOI now. But when you think about the fact that only last year in Germany, you needed to have a person verify you, and then you look ahead to where we're going with agentic AI and a lot of automation and a lot of friction being removed from so many processes to speed things up, it's kind of mind-blowing.
I hear you.
And yeah, it's been really fascinating to learn about the different, I think we're all experiencing different themes in all the different parts of the world, but in different ways, because we all have, slightly different economies. And in Thailand, it's very tourism based. Huge driver of the economy here is tourism. Whereas in Australia and America, we have an office in America as well. Our economies are a little bit more service based and resource based. So we export a lot. Thailand exports a lot as well. So there's like all of these different drivers happening. So I think every country is kind of addressing different pain points. But from a consumer perspective, we're all in a similar boat in the fact that the cost of living has just soared over the last few years. And one of the benefits we have there is that we've never had more access to information and data, and that can be a blessing and a curse, because on the one hand, we do have a lot of information and we do have a lot of access to resources to be able to educate ourselves and learn more and make more informed decisions. At the same time, it does feel like information overload sometimes, and you don't know where to start. And I guess that's something that I really enjoy, is being able to try and simplify things. I think it can be really hard to be in whatever situation you're in, and you're kind of got a very narrow focus on this is what it is, and I might feel stuck, or I don't know how to earn more money, or I don't know how to get out of debt, or whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
There is so much help and resource out there now to learn from other people and to access different resources and just kind of make better decisions, but it can sometimes be really difficult to know who to trust.
Yes, that is true.
So yeah, it's a very big, broad ecosystem. A huge theme at Money 2020 has been trust, and I think now more than ever that is so important, is making sure that wherever you get your information, it's as trustworthy as possible, because we now have so much fraud, so many scams, deep fakes, and technology enables so much more opportunity for things to kind of go wrong. So we kind of have to be a bit hyper vigilant, but like I said, it's a blessing and a curse on both sides.
Absolutely. You're right. I mean, you summed it up pretty nicely, that there's kind of two sides to the coin, where the speed of growth, it opens up so many opportunities, but it can get very overwhelming and make us very susceptible to fraud and getting sort of wrong information, misinformation, disinformation, and all the X information. So
exactly right.
So, but in that world, I'm glad that your team at Finder, and I'm sure there are others as well, who are sort of de-jargonizing a lot of this thing
I love that.
For people even like myself who are perhaps not finance native.
Yes.
Right. So
I love that, de-jargonizing. I'm going to be stealing that.
Please,
That's brilliant.
To be fair, I stole it from somebody else. But yeah, so we'll pass it on.
We'll continue, yes.
But Yeah, so I think it's needed more than ever, the work you're doing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, you touched upon it a little bit in your previous response, was just the differences you see in the stages different markets are globally, and the priorities that different markets have based on their economic needs. And for example, Thailand, you mentioned, is a very tourism-heavy economy, and then
Yeah.
your part of the world perhaps could be more service-focused. So, speaking of the Thailand and Southeast Asia context, obviously in considering where we're sitting right now, do you see any Thailand or Southeast Asia specific trends that you feel are either a great opportunity or a great challenge or a mix of both?
Yes. I mean, having been here and being able to talk to so many people from so many different countries in the region, it's incredible to see just how much, I guess, like talent and innovation there is happening here. And in a lot of ways, I mean, I don't want to get too political, but in the past we would kind of look at what was coming out of more, in America, we would think that they were the tech titans in America. The very Silicon Valley was kind of the center of fintech commerce, and obviously it still is, but we now see so much more innovation coming out of Asia, and so many strides are being made here that are world leading. And I think there's some really interesting differences. In some ways, Thailand is much further ahead than Australia, and then in some ways we're leading a little bit more. And so one example of that is when it comes to digital banks. We've been in that space for quite some time in Australia, but interestingly, we had probably, I would say, about 8 to 10 years ago, we started to see the rise of neobanks and digital banks. We had quite a few open. Some of them were lenders, some of them were just deposit-taking institutions, but we had quite a number of digital banks. And then over the last 5 years, we saw them all contract. So they either closed or they were absorbed by a major bank. And that's quite a good strategy on behalf of the banks, because they are quite entrenched with a lot of legacy, technology and processes and things, but they've got a lot of trust. So they can kind of maintain that brand and that business model while buying a neobank, a digital bank, and start that, journey with younger customers, digital natives, because there are still really big generational differences in how people like to bank. So older people really trust the existing banks.
Right.
Younger people are a bit more open to, they're digital natives, so they're open to digital banking. So we have that happening in Australia, where we've kind of had a mini boom of digital banks and then a contraction, whereas Thailand at the moment is in more of the boom stage.
Right.
I think you've got 3 digital banks opening in 2026. So it's, in that way, we're in slightly different phases,
right.
But in other ways, I think there are some trends that are going to transcend markets, and no matter where you are, it's going to impact you. I do find it really fascinating walking around Thailand, and it's a tale of two cities or two economies. You can have these, on one side of the street, these incredible big modern buildings, and they're at the cutting edge of commerce and finance. And then on the other side of the street, you've got street vendors, right, making their food and making their money from something that is so, culturally historic.
Right.
So it's such a juxtaposition here, which I think is part of the charm of this country.
100%.
But so I can see things impacting the economies in different ways. And I think in a lot of ways, those traditions and things, they do help Thailand. It adds a bit of a buffer or a protection against some of the risks of AI, because while AI is going to replace a lot of jobs, it also, we don't want a robot on the side of the street making street food. No, and we don't want to lose, it wouldn't feel the same. Now, how can they test the flavour? They can't check if it needs more salt. But we also don't want to lose those parts of human connection and experience. So I do think there's some really interesting cultural differences, but I think really broadly, I think it's pretty clear that white-collar jobs, office-based jobs, are the most at risk, because there's so much automation that can happen there. But there will be a lot of job creation in different ways. So we're going to see such a massive shift in the economy. I think One of the main time frames we're looking at is kind of last year was very much about, I always say this wrong, generative AI.
You got it.
I always stumble on that. Last year was very much about that. This year, agentic AI is becoming, a very, very, not even becoming, it is a very, very hot topic and something a lot of money is being invested into. And, the expectation is that over the next few years, between now and 2030, that's going to drive a huge amount of innovation and change. And agentic AI, for anyone who doesn't know, the first time I heard it, I was like, what does this mean? And agentic AI is agent-based AI, so it's agents actually doing the tasks for you. And it's going to... There's a trust barrier to overcome because we have to trust the agent to access our data and do things for us. But I think once as a community and as a society, once we learn, we'll get over that hump and decide we trust it, it's going to accelerate very quickly and change a lot of things.
I'm sure there's I've heard the word agentic. I'm without exaggerating hundreds of times over the last couple of days. So I completely understand where you're coming from, and the fact that, like you mentioned, there are two aspects to it, right? So there's the technology itself, and it's evolving, and we already talked about the safety measures and things that even a lot of companies here are working on, just making sure that when we actually hit that tipping point of agentic commerce being mainstream, there are enough guardrails and safeguards in place to do that. But on the other side, there's the adoption aspect of it. So the technology is moving, but when does the
consumer take it up?
Right. So when does the street vendor?
Yes.
You ask your agent to buy the moving from the street vendor. So it's going to be almost two worlds moving in parallel, and
I think that's such a good way to put it. Yeah, it does really feel like that, and I can see for some parts of the community, it does feel like if I don't get on board, I'm going to be left behind. And to a degree, that's right. Like you can't really afford to put your head in the sand. But I know for myself personally, I used to have a bit of fear around it because it's such a big change. And I think change naturally promotes fear. So I really do think educating yourself as much as you can and as much as you're comfortable with, staying on top of what's happening can actually be really useful. And I also do think as fast as it's happening, I'm hopeful that there's enough checks and balances happening and enough people who are monitoring how it's deploying, because there was a really great session yesterday. I know we keep talking about Money 2020, but it was brilliant.
As we should.
But there's a great session yesterday that was all about basically just because we can doesn't mean we should. That we can move forward and like there's so much technology we can unleash, but for what purpose and what greater good? And I see this really play out in finance, where in the last, I would say, 10 years, we have made so much progress in streamlining and optimizing and removing the friction from a lot of finance transactions. But that's not always in the best interests of a consumer, because when you think about it, even just buying something online, like 10, 12 years ago, if you wanted, or actually if I go back even further, I'm aging myself a bit, but if you go back 20 years ago, if I wanted to buy something, I pretty much had to go to the shops. There were a few things you could get online, but it would often involve like emailing them and placing an order and what have you. And if I wanted something, I had to go to the shops, and there's a bit of tension in that. There's friction because you have to be motivated to get up and go and do it. And so sometimes you're like, I can't be bothered, I'll go without. Now it can be, 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and you're scrolling online and something pops up, and in one click, all your data is in there. One click, add to cart, one click purchase. So in 2 clicks, you've bought it and it's delivered to your door tomorrow. That really facilitates spending at a level that like our brains are not designed to cope with. So I think sometimes, we talk about these advances in technology, and yes, they solve problems, but are they solving the right problems? I personally would love to see some friction come back into payments. I also think that's where we have this huge opportunity for fraud and scams to proliferate, because it happens so fast. And we have seen in Australia some banks start to introduce friction back in. They're introducing a step back into the process where, say I was going to send you some money and you're a new person that I'm transacting to, banks are now starting to match it and make sure that the name I put in matches your name, so that it's, not called ABC Plumbing, but it's actually a scam. But also an alert comes up and says, do you know this person? Scams operate in this way. It's just trying to put an extra step in between the clicks, so that you hopefully get a moment to pause before you proceed. So I do think those things are going to become even more important as we move on.
I'm sure. That's in fact great food for thought, because I hadn't, at least the last couple of days when I was talking about all of these things, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it. And this is a conversation I've had with previous guests as well, where it's almost sometimes it's like an arms race or a FOMO of not missing out on a new technology, where people try adopting the technology for the sake of adopting the technology.
Exactly.
It's a line that we've used in previous episodes, like when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You're
full of the great sayings today. I love this.
I'm just absorbing everything I can from the guests that I've had.
It's such a good point, though. And also, some of the problems we're solving are really helpful problems for businesses, but they're not so helpful for consumers. In some, because I'm a personal finance journalist, and I stay quite up to date on trends to do with credit cards and buy now, pay later and those types of things. We just see exponential growth in those debts. And from a business perspective, the platforms who are doing it, they're creating technology and using technology to facilitate more and more and more spending. It's a great solution for them and for the business community and the retailers that are getting the business and things, but is that a great solution for people? And in kind of funny but not funny, I saw someone the other day who had bought a hot dog at IKEA for $1.50, and he put it on Afterpay kind of as a joke, and he paid it off 37 cents over 6 weeks, and he was kind of doing it this is kind of ridiculous that you can do this.
It objectively is.
Yes.
I can't argue with that.
And I just remember seeing it thinking, that we should not, my belief is that if you can't afford to pay for your takeaway food, then you're not in a position to buy it. If you don't have the cash or availability, cash really, if you don't have the cash to buy it, then you should be making it at home, because you're living beyond your means. If I see anyone using Afterpay or buy now, pay later to be able to purchase a burger or a curry, I'm thinking that's not a great financial decision. It's not working in your best interest. And so that to me is an example of where I think we've taken friction from a system, but at what cost to the consumer? So you can now, go onto the apps and order food, have it delivered to your door, pay it off over 6 weeks if you don't have the money to pay for it in full. That's not, in my view, not the utopia we should be working towards. It's convenient.
That's something I need to think about a lot as well, because that's something that we don't. Because it's always about, hey, convenience, but convenience at what cost is something
at what cost?
I'm glad you spoke about, because I don't think I've had a conversation about this ever. So I'm glad
so glad.
You brought this up.
You've given me sayings and I've given you new ideas.
Absolutely.
A great exchange.
I mean, that's why we have these conversations. So yes, it's fascinating to think about, and I'm sure I'm going to be having more conversations about it, especially when I'm talking to finance experts, especially on the personal finance side. Now, sort of shifting gears a little bit is, so finance is obviously only one part of the work you do. The other is talking about it. So could you maybe tell me about some of the trends you've seen on that front? So the storytelling aspect of businesses and how that has evolved, especially in the last few years.
Yes, I love that you call it the storytelling of it, because it truly is. At the heart of all finance stories is people. And so everything that I talk about is, I'm always thinking about how does this help someone make a better decision or understand their situation better, or feel better about their future. So I do a lot of media appearances as a representative for Finder. We do a lot of insights and data, so I'm often sharing the latest trends and things. The biggest trend globally in the last month or so has been the war between the US and Iran, and the impact that that's had on not just petrol prices, but the flow-on effect of that with the with the blockades and things, it's not just going to impact fuel, it's also transport. And in Australia, we've got a huge agriculture, industry that relies on fuel to produce. So, our government is having talks about how we might ration fuel so that we make sure our farmers can get access to it first, and that, everyday people, we're being really encouraged to use public transport. And, there's different things happening around the world. I think in Sri Lanka, they've put a 4-day work week in, and, there's lots of things happening globally to try and look at that. So that's obviously a very big thing that is a global trend everyone's concerned about at the moment. But I think that I loved how you called it storytelling, because when I'm doing media appearances, it always comes back to the story of, the daily lives we live. And money is that's not the story. Money is a means to an end.
Absolutely.
And interestingly, we often think, that money is the solution. And of course, we all want enough money. But it's really our embedded habits and education and beliefs that kind of shape our reality of what we do. And so an example of that is I was interviewing a woman once, and she's very financially successful, but fell into that success. Like, it wasn't like a plan that she worked towards. She just somehow, like, an opportunity landed and she made a lot of money, like 7 figures a year, really well off financially. But she was like, I'm not very good with money, and I don't, I'm really scared I'm going to lose it all. And her money is actually just sitting in a transaction account. And I said, what, are you willing to invest it? Absolutely not. That's way too risky. And I said, all right, well, what if you just moved it into a high interest savings account and you could just earn interest on it? She goes, no, too risky. And I was shocked, because I was like, there's no risk. You can access it anytime. Like, you can remove it like anytime. But even that was too risky for her. And the fascinating thing about that was, I was looking at this person who is in a situation all of us would love to be in, multi-millionaire with a great income, but she was living as if she was poor because she was so worried about losing it.
Right.
And then you can have the flip side of that, of people who actually don't have a lot of income, but they're really good with their money. They've got really good exit strategies. They maybe have a savings for emergencies, and they have savings for the future, and they might be investing, and they've got the right insurance in place, and their income is way lower, but they feel more at peace with their financial situation because of how they've set it all up. So that, I know that's not a trend, but that is something really fascinating that I noticed between people. And it's something that I really love kind of exploring within the trends that we report. So a huge one in Australia at the moment is about housing. Housing prices are, I pretty much talk to the media every week about something to do with housing, because our house prices have gone through the roof. But a really interesting thing we've seen in the last 3 years is what we kind of jokingly call the bank of mum and dad. And what that means is that people need to go to their parents for a deposit and to help them get a loan. That's shifted from 1 in 10 people 3 years ago to 1 in 5 people today. So now 20% of people are needing help from their parents to get into a property. So, we're seeing a lot of growth in housing prices up until recently, and then we're seeing really strong demand still, which just keeps the prices going up. So yeah, it's really it's such a pain point for a lot of people, because obviously your home is your security. The rental market in Australia has been crazy as well. Prices have gone through the roof, so that creates a lot of instability for people. So that is like one of the biggest things happening for us at the moment. And we actually have our annual federal budget in the beginning of May. So when that happens, everyone's kind of waiting to see what announcements there will be and how things are going to take shape moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great perspective to have, because especially in events like these, when we're talking about industry trends and macroeconomic trends and cross-border transactions, we all kind of, at least, sorry, I'm speaking for myself here, is we lose sight of the fact that money is essentially a tool for individuals and businesses to meet an end, right? So
yes.
So from that perspective, there's different individuals, like you said, might not just have different needs, but different approaches to how they handle the money. So the absolute sum of money doesn't matter as much as the way they use it and the way they perceive it.
Absolutely. It's hit the nail on the head there. And I think, what you said they're about the means to an end. Like I often talk about home loans within Finder when I'm talking to my colleagues, and we're talking about different, media angles or different things that we're trying to communicate to our audience. And I'll say no one actually cares about getting a home loan. Like the debt is not interesting. They usually don't care where it comes from. They just want the loan. What they are excited about is buying their dream home or getting into their first home or getting the apartment they've been dreaming about that has a beautiful view or buying something with a little backyard for their dog or their child. That's what people are connected to. The financial stuff happening over here is less interesting. If you're trying to get a credit card because you're going overseas and you want a card with no foreign transaction fees, you don't actually care about the card and where you get it. You care about what that unlocks for you. You know what I mean? So I love helping people look at their own money habits and their own money mindset and see where they can make some shifts to help enjoy the processes more. And I came from a really, I wouldn't say poor, but a really financially tight family growing up. We had a bankruptcy and we were renting and we moved houses a lot. And so I saw a lot of financial instability. So I'm very much not downplaying how hard it is to not have money. It makes a world of difference. But I think also our mindset really impacts our day-to-day experience of life, because if your mindset is wherever your mindset is the experience you're going to have.
100%.
And I love helping people connect those dots a bit, because you can then see the opportunities to save. And I often think if you're paying more than you need to for any of your household bills, you're kind of donating money to those businesses.
So I couldn't have put it better.
Yeah, so I'm like, wouldn't you rather have that, donate it to yourself in your future?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that kind of circles back to the original problem that you're solving at Finder, right? So it's just to a quick remark on the fact that money is not just the numbers, but also there's a psychological angle to it. So it's fascinating to hear somebody talk about it. Now, talking about the bank of mom and dad, you recently wrote a book about, let me make sure, how to raise rich kids.
That's right.
So I'm a father of a 3-year-old daughter. These are things that my wife and I have now started thinking about.
Yes.
So I know that your book is coming out in May. So it's not out yet. So without revealing too much, could you maybe tease us about what the book is about and what readers might expect to learn from reading it?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for you, because at 3, what a glorious age, but also you've got such an opportunity for her. And really excitingly, so the book is called How to Raise Rich Kids, and it's being published in Australia, but I just yesterday signed a deal to have it distributed in India. So hopefully
it'll find my way to
Hopefully it'll find its way a bit closer to here. So really my inspiration for this book, it's called How to Raise Rich Kids, and you might have guessed by now that my philosophy is a bit broader than just money. So
100%.
Rich to me is not just having money in the bank, although that is wonderful. It's having a financial foundation so that you can have a rich life, rich in opportunities, in risks, in taking chances, in having adventures, in throwing your hat in the ring, because if it doesn't work out, you've got a safety net, So that's what the inspiration for the book was. I've got 3 kids of my own, and I thought, what kind of future do I want for them? I actually don't want a cushy future for them. I could set them up for financial success and hand them the keys and go have a good time, but that's not what I want. I want them to be able to experiment and go in different directions and move across the world if they want to, and travel and try opening a business, and if it fails, pick themselves up and try again. And all of that requires financial foundation. So that was the inspiration for the book, of thinking ahead for them. What did I want for them? I don't want to hand them a pot of gold. I want to hand them the ability to get their own pot of gold. So the book is it's separated into sections. We have like the little ones your age, like under 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. And it goes through like that age and what you can be doing to help your kids like understand money, what to do for pocket money, what investments you could be looking at, how to set goals for them, I'm a really big believer in speaking openly with your kids about money,
Right.
even money stress, because you can talk to them about it in a way that kind of removes the stress
Right.
and helps demystify money. I think for so many people, what was it before? De-jargonize. I love that. I think for so many people, money is still such a mystery, and managing it, or when people say, I'm not good with money, I'm terrible with money, I instantly kind of want to challenge that, because I'm like, somewhere along the line, you've believed that about yourself, but it's actually quite simple. And I really love to help people kind of get into the driver's seat with it, because it's so much more enjoyable when you're not stressed about it.
I'm sure. Yeah, 100%.
And the book also, I have like a huge, so half of it is all the age groups and how to set your kids up, and lots of investment ideas. And then the second part of the book, the back end, is explaining every different type of investment and like the risk profile and the types of rewards, the returns, not rewards, the returns you can expect, and the tax implications and all of that stuff. So it's a really good deep dive. And the whole goal of it is to help set your kids up for like a really solid financial future, and you don't have to be rich yourself to set them up. And when I say solid financial future, there are strategies in there that could help you grow $1 million for your kids, or anywhere from setting them up with a small pot of, 10 to 20 grand through to multi-millions. So really, hopefully, it's very accessible to a whole range of different income levels.
It's really interesting to learn, not just as somebody who is trying to use your own words, learn more about finance, but also somebody who wants to plan better for the next generation. So it's you have one copy sold already.
Wonderful.
So, especially if you're launching in India, that's easy for me to access. I'll make sure I get my hands on it. Maybe we can chat about it the next time we meet.
Wonderful. I would love that.
But yeah, congratulations on this milestone, and best wishes for your launch. I'm sure it'll do very well, especially from the perspective of, I think, just as a reader, I can feel it when an author sort of is speaking from their personal experience. And from what you said, it is a lot of your personal experience and things that you feel strongly about. So I'm sure that will reflect in your work.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind. Exactly what I'm hoping people get from it.
Absolutely. So I look forward to it. Now, outside of the book, which is right around the corner,
yes.
Are there any other projects, announcements that you're working on that I should know about, our audience should know about?
Oh, what a great question. I think I'm very much in book mode at the moment. Very exciting. I have been nominated for an award, which is it's called the Women Empowering Wealth Awards.
Awesome.
That gets announced in June. So that's really lovely to be nominated and kind of recognized for the work I'm doing. And the book is a very big focus for the next little while. And then the second half of the year, who knows? At the moment, I'm very focused on the first half, and then we'll see where we go there. But I have an Instagram account called Money Margarita.
Wow.
Deliberately fun, because I was trying, when I was coming up with that name, I was like, what's something that combines money with something that is engaging and fun for parents, really. And I thought, what do I love? I love margaritas. I love money. Popped them together. So I do a lot of content there where I'm sharing a lot of tips and advice and ideas and, inspo and all sorts of things there. We've got a really lovely community of people who are cheering each other on for money wins. So
Awesome.
Love anyone to follow along if you're
I'll make sure to include the link in the description of this video as well.
That would be great,
So,
yeah.
Yes, I look forward to learning more from you on your Instagram page as well. So now it brings us to sort of our last question is any key pieces of advice you might have for sort of, I know it's very general, so it might, but any sort of, let's just say, key to-dos or things to think about when somebody's thinking about their personal finance, just as a parting gift to our audience?
Oh, I love that question. It's very, very broad. I probably have about 10 that are coming to mind straight away.
So maybe if there's an Asian angle to it, perhaps you could narrow it down, or
I think I think one of the things when we were talking off camera earlier, we were talking about how people kind of identify as like, oh, I'm really good with money, or I'm not good with money. Right. I think it's a really good idea to investigate where that comes from. For some people, it's they were never good at maths at school, or they were someone told them you're terrible at managing money or something. having a think about that and whether it's actually true is a really good idea. And also, what does that even mean? Does it mean you're a bit hard on yourself for how much you spend? Or does it mean you feel like you're always stressed about money? Or what is that actually doing in your life, and how's it showing up for you? But I think the best thing anyone can do with their money is just understand what it looks like right now. The last few years, we've said we're going through a cost of living crisis, and we say it so much that we forget what that actually means.
Right.
And your cost of living is how much it costs you to exist. And so many people don't know that number.
Right.
So for instance, I know in my family, I'm married, I've got 3 kids, and we have a mortgage and different debts and things.
Right.
And I know the number I need every single month. If we don't have that amount of income,
Right.
we can't pay our bills, we can't survive. Everyone should know that number, because that's your peace of mind number. And that number, you want to have ideally like 3 to 6 months of it in savings, so that if something terrible happens and you lose your job, or you get injured, or someone's in hospital, or you're diagnosed with an illness, or something happens, that you've got a bit of backup there while you get back on your feet. So I know for some people, they're struggling pay to pay, and they're thinking, how am I going to save up 3 months, let alone 3 days? And that's where I think it's really powerful to look at what you're spending, looking at your habits, and trying to find ways to save without like costing yourself anything. Right. So I'm very loyal to myself. I'm not loyal to any brands. Right. I will switch to anyone who's going to offer me a better deal, and I encourage that, because like I said before, you're donating your money to big business if you're paying too much. And it's absolutely understandable. When you move in somewhere and you set up your electricity and your, mobile, not your mobile, your NBN, your internet and things like that, you tend to kind of set it up and then that's it,
Absolutely.
But year on year, those prices increase, and you can save significant amounts of money by shopping around and getting a better deal. So I think really understanding, it's such a long-winded answer, I'm so sorry.
No,
But understand what your cost of living is, so you know your peace of mind number. I've got to have this. And your cost of living, by the way, it's not your, excuse me, your cost of living is not how much you spend on discretionary spending, like eating out and going to bars and restaurants and all of that kind of stuff. That's discretionary. You can rein that in if you want. Right. Your cost of living is how much does it cost to exist, to pay for housing and all of my essentials. Right. You really want to know that number. You want to work towards having 3 months of it saved. And then you want to be switching and comparing on your bills to save as much money as you can on the things you already use.
Awesome. That is, I think, very sound advice. Especially, like I said, it kind of felt personal as well. So thanks for that. And it sort of, on a personal note, a lot of what you mentioned is what in our relationship my wife already takes care of.
Yes.
So just the peace of mind number, we don't call it that, but it essentially is that. But, things like that, things like making sure that we are getting the best deals on stuff we're buying. So so it's things that I found have been very useful in our life as well. So I can assure our audience that is pretty sound advice, especially for people who are getting started on understanding personal finance and where they currently stand. So thanks for that advice, Sarah. Thanks for your time. It was a pleasure learning more about you, your world, and I'm glad that you took the time.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Right back at you. And I hope we have more conversations on and off camera in Bangkok, in India, and perhaps even in Sydney.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We'll stay connected.
Absolutely. You have a great rest of your stay in Bangkok.
Thank
and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who tuned in. If you like the content, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.